Brand is everything. But fair warning, this video is not for beginners. But if you're at a stage of your business where brands and market penetration and domination is a priority for you, you're gonna wanna pay attention to this. My name is Duriel Kim. I'm the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. We help health experts build scalable practices. I've been online for 20 years, building 7- and 8-figure companies myself, and also helping thousands of other coaches and practitioners build 6-, 7-, and 8-figure businesses. I'm gonna share with you right now how we're building a billion-dollar brand from scratch. I'm also gonna share with you why I'm wearing this sweater today and exactly what it has to do with your business and brand. I'll get to that as we get toward the end of this video. But for now, I want to let you know that in today's day and age, in case you've been living under a rock, trust is everything. So when I think about brands, for the longest time, there's always been these two divisions, these two camps. You've got direct response, which is like the old school hardcore marketing, which is like you have a message, you have an offer, and you can track response. And then there's brand, billboards, Super Bowl commercials, content. Harder to put an ROI behind it because it's, like, how do you attribute a specific post to an outcome or a billboard to the growth of a specific product? It's hard to do that. However, what I've noticed over time being online for 20 years is that brand has become increasingly important for small to medium-sized businesses, but also if you look at a lot of the explosion of personal brands, Mr. Beast, Prime with Logan Paul, all of the bigger companies that are like really coming out nowadays, they're all personal brands. And part of the reason for that is because people want to do business with people, not corporate entities. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through a couple exercises that you can do to help your brand kind of take shape. But it's also something that I think is important to think about no matter what stage of business you're at. Because when I think of brands, and we'll come back to this triangle, there's 3 important reasons why brand is probably the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, the best product doesn't win, the best brand does. So I'll give you 3 examples. So if we think of this triangle, I want you to think of each of the sides of the triangle representing one major benefit of why brand is so important. So number 1 is that brand equals certainty. Humans hate uncertainty for the most part. Like, yeah, we like to have a little bit of variety in life, but we would much rather have certainty because we're afraid of making the wrong decision. So think of why reviews are so important, right? You go to Amazon, you want to buy something. If it has 5,000 5-star reviews, that gives you certainty that that's a good product to buy. Another example is Starbucks. So Starbucks, we know, doesn't have the best coffee, but it has certainty attached to that. You know that no matter which Starbucks you go to, anywhere in the world, if you get a vanilla sweet cream nitro cold brew like I do, it's gonna be the same, more or less, anywhere you go. But if I go to a random coffee shop anywhere and I want to get a nitro, I don't necessarily know what I'm getting. Now, do I want to take that chance? Sure, maybe sometimes I will, but other times we gravitate towards what we know because certainty is a very, very important kind of safety, if you will, built in to what we look for as humans. When you have a brand, and a brand, think of it as like Coca-Cola or the McDonald's or the big brands like, the Starbucks, the Nikes, etc. What it tells us is that if something's been around for a very, very, very long time, it usually indicates there's an element of safety with that. And that incorporates that certainty piece, right? So the longer the time, like if you look at any big brand, most of the brands have been around for a long time, not a year. And this is an important thing to remember as we go through this, is that big brands, personal brands or corporate, take time. And humans, because we crave certainty, i.e. safety, that is created with time. So if something's been around for a long time, it tells us there's probably a reason for that. And if it's been around for a long time, the likelihood of it being around for a long time to come is also much greater. There's less risk and volatility. So brand, one benefit of it is that certainty aspect. The second important aspect of brand is that brand equals trust. So in a world of skepticism and AI and deep fakes, this is going to be more important than ever before because the antidote to skepticism is having a brand. I'll talk about how we build the brand as we go through this video. But if you think about, like, for instance, Healthpreneur, I've been online since 2005. So I've been doing this now for more than 20 years. Healthpreneur has been around since 2017. So when someone is like, hey, Yuri, I'm talking to a couple other companies who do similar work to you, I'm like, cool. I don't give a shit. Like, I mean, I probably coached them or they copied a bunch of our stuff because that's kind of the reality of being the preeminent leader in your space. So my question is, cool, like you can certainly find someone who is cheaper, who does similar stuff to us. But if you were to get on a plane flying from where you are to where you want to go, would you want to get on the plane with a rookie simulator trained pilot? Or would you want to get on a plane with a captain who's been doing this for 20,000 hours? The answer is obvious, right? So if you want to fly with the captain, you work with us. Like our biggest differentiator at Healthpreneur is our experience. Like no one has the track record, experience, and longevity that we do as a business. And what that does is it instills that there's some level of trust here because and again, that goes back into the certainty piece as well. If a company or a brand has been around longer, usually it's because they're doing good things. Generally, and I'm sure there's some exceptions, you're not really doing shady stuff and lasting in business too long. So while everyone can enter the market and become a coach nowadays, the businesses and the brands that stand the test of time are usually going to continue to rise to the top because they have that inherent trust of the marketplace. The more people see you, the more they trust you, period. That's just the way that's like, it's a cognitive bias as human beings. So just being around long enough and having your brand, when I say your brand, I'm not talking about your logo. I'm talking about your content, your message, anything of yours, just consistently in front of the marketplace, consistently in front of your ideal people. The more they see that, even if they don't even know you, the more they see your stuff, the more they will trust you because the more they see you, the more value they place on you. It's called the mere exposure effect. And there's actually been a lot of research around this with presidents who spend the most money on advertising or have the most media exposure tend to get elected much more than their counterparts. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's kind of the way the human brain works. And that's why brand is so powerful. So we talk about certainty, we talk about trust. And the third piece about brand is identity. So if we think of brand, like brand is an association between two different things, right? Or a multitude of different things. If I say Lululemon or Aloe, there's probably going to be some of you that resonate with one or the other. For me, I'll give you an example. I love McLaren. I have McLaren cars. I'm not a Ferrari guy. I don't care. Like they're both supercars, but I identify with McLaren. I also have a BMW M5 and I've had it for a long time. And I've always been a BMW guy. I've had, 335, 328, and I've never been a Mercedes guy. Now, both of those are big brands, BMW and Mercedes. But why do I identify with BMW? Because BMW's identity is all about, well, at least it used to be. I don't know if it's the same anymore, but it's like the ultimate driving machine, whatever it was. It's built for people who really enjoy driving. McLaren is the same, right? I've driven everything. Lambos, Ferraris, Porsche 911s, the whole bit. McLaren is built for drivers. And so for me, I identify with companies, at least in the car space, that are built for that, as opposed to Mercedes, which is the best or nothing, right? So that's kind of like their tagline. So it's like there's an element of prestige and status that's a little bit different with Mercedes than there is with BMW. So your brand is going to really have an identity association within your marketplace. So when they see your brand and your message and what you do, they want to be able to identify with what you do. So those are the three core things that I look at when it comes to why brand is so important. I'm going to walk you through a document here. Actually, this is something we give to our clients. And I want to be very clear about this. When I talk about brand, I'm not talking about like logos and colors and fonts, although there's an aspect to that, which we'll get to. I'll actually show you our brand guidelines, our landing page guidelines, a lot of our creative guidelines. So this will give you maybe a bit of a visual reference to some of this stuff. But at the end of the day, brand is really about like, it's your message, right? It's what you stand for, what you stand against, what you want to be known for, the associations and the feelings that you want people to have with your brand. So we have an exercise called Brand You, which is essentially about helping you extract how you are different or your perspective on anything, to be honest, in your business, in the marketplace you serve. And this is important because, again, the key thing to remember from this is it's not about what colors or fonts you want to be associated with. It's when people see your content or your message, they have to feel something, because if you are now being commoditized based on price point or you sound like everyone else, you've already lost the game. So if you're ever speaking to prospects and like, yeah, it sounds like you guys do similar work to someone else, your brand is not doing the job that it's supposed to do. You want people to choose you without even having a conversation with you because of how well your marketing, i.e. branding, has done to position you as different, not necessarily better, but different from everyone else in your space. So in the brand you document here, I'll just walk you through a few things. So there's a lot of different questions here. You can see here as an example, like, what are your thoughts on marriage and having kids? What does that have to do with your business? Well, maybe it has everything to do with your business. Maybe not, right? But it's about starting to articulate your perspectives on stuff. What's your spiritual or religious inclination? How has that supported you in life so far? I've seen this happen in our clients' businesses. I'm not exaggerating this. 100% of the clients that we've worked with who have a faith-based approach with their business, right? So they're very Christian-based or they're Jewish or whatever it is, they absolutely crush. They can be a dietitian, but if they have kind of the faith component as part of their business and it's openly overt in their marketing, not from a manipulative standpoint, but that's just who they are, they naturally appeal to people who are of the same faith. And if you think about it, if you've got two dietitians and one's just like, I'm a dietitian, I help you lose weight. And this one's like, I'm a dietitian and I only work with Christian moms. And you're a Christian mom, which one are you choosing? Probably this one. Why? Shared values, shared belief systems, etc. Right? So that's the power of starting to unravel some of this stuff. Which movie or show character do you resonate with most? What is it about him or her that's appealing to you? Okay, why does this question matter to you? Well, as an example, one of my favorite characters is Maverick, right, from Top Gun. Why Maverick? Okay, I'll tell you about that in a second. Another example is Tony Stark / Iron Man. Okay, well, what is it about him? He's a maverick. He goes against the grain. He breaks all the rules. Maverick goes against the grain, breaks all the rules, saves the day. Well, there's something about that I resonate with. And if I can start to share that in my content, not trying to be someone I'm not, but just understanding who I am at my core so I can speak my truth, so I can like put myself out there in the way that I want to, then I'm living in congruence with who I am at my core. So again, part of this is just being like starting to unearth who you really are, because at the end of the day, it's like, if you can speak your truth unapologetically, you will build a very strong brand that the right people will gravitate towards. All right, I'm just going to breeze through a couple things here. Okay, so this is a great example. So what are 5 things that drive you nuts about your niche or in general? If you think about your marketplace, there are a lot of people who are in the marketplace and they talk about certain things. There's probably things that drive you absolutely bonkers about how people approach the specific topic you help them solve, right? So let's say that you work with people who lose weight. Okay, so maybe counting macros drives you crazy. Maybe you love counting macros and you can't stand people who talk about intermittent fasting, right? Whatever it is, you want to start to articulate, like write this stuff down, because your brand is about dividing a line in the sand. And it's not about trying to help and appeal to everyone. It's about being very clear about who you are to your core and galvanizing the right people, and not necessarily on purpose, but somewhat to a certain extent polarizing so that the wrong people stay away from you. When you want perfect clients coming into your world, like your marketing, your brand acts like a boomerang. So you throw the boomerang out and what you put out comes right back at you. So if you're not clear about this stuff, then you're just going to happen to have random people fall into your lap. But as soon as you're very clear about your stance on, as an example, vaccines. Oh my God, what a controversial topic. But I'll tell you this, if you know exactly what your stance is and you're willing to speak that, you will appeal to a very specific group of people and you will piss off and polarize everyone else. Okay. What's your take on IVF? Right? We have a lot of clients who are like, no, like IVF it's ridiculous. It's expensive. It doesn't work. They approach things more naturally. They're going to appeal to people who agree with that. Does that make sense? So write down, like, what are the things, like 5 things that drive you crazy about your specific market, your specific industry, your specific niche, and you start to embed that in your content. What do you stand against? What gets your blood boiling? I'll share 2 things with you right here that are probably the most important to galvanizing a tribe of ravenous fans around you. Number 1 is, who is the common enemy? So I'll give you an example from Healthpreneur. Our common enemy is a broken healthcare system that fundamentally doesn't work. It's bullshit. It doesn't work. I live in Canada. It's a public healthcare system and it is an absolute disaster. So when I talk about helping practices scale, whether that's in their clinic or online, none of our clients take insurance because, number 1, our messaging is all cash-based, right? Like, oh, I'm dealing with all these billing issues. Don't take insurance. So if some people don't agree with that message, guess what? We're not their cup of tea. But if we talk about premium pricing, creating transformational outcomes, and getting patients or clients to pay out of pocket for that, there's going to be a segment of the population in our space that resonates with that. And then there's a big percentage of the population in the health sector, as an example, that's like, no, public healthcare should be given for free to everyone. I'm like, no fucking way. When people don't pay, they don't pay attention. right? So that's something I stand against. And I'm very, very adamant about this. And listen, like as much as I'd love to help everyone, and we have a mission of helping 1 billion people, I also know that at some level, that's not going to happen when people don't pay out of pocket. So again, does everyone agree with that? No, but I agree with that. I agree with that. And something I stand against, and I stand for this. Okay. So when you look at who's a common enemy, so in our case, that would be an example of a common enemy. Another common enemy, again, in like, let's call it the weight loss or the health space, is big food companies, right? Well, yeah, like obviously the food supply is disrupted and it's literally built to make us sick, fat, and nearly dead. What about big pharma, right? That's a common enemy. We don't necessarily have to poke holes at individuals, but the common enemy could be belief systems, it could be philosophies, it could be bigger organizations that a lot of people are like, yeah, fuck them, right? Like naturally, I swear in some of my videos, whatever it is, what it is, right? I'm not going to like vanilla-ize my content just to appeal to some people. I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. If it's abrasive for some people, guess what? I swear on the inside when I work with my clients, not to the level of like, ridiculousness, but it comes out. I get passionate, I get heated about this stuff. So anyways, this is a really powerful exercise just at a very basic level to say, okay, well, what do I stand for? What do I stand against? Who's the common enemy? Okay, getting clear on your common enemy is really, really important. In my previous health business, we had one of the common enemies was P90X. Now, listen, with all due respect, I love Tony Horton. It's like we've connected, he's a great dude, but we use P90X, I didn't call P90X out. I just talked about it. For us, late night infomercial workouts where you're working out 6 days a week for 90 minutes at a time. Yeah, it'll produce results in the short term, but it'll kill your body in the long term. You can't sustain that. You're going to burn out. So that was the common enemy. It was not necessarily P90X, but it was the philosophy that embodied of like long workouts 6 times a week, just you're going to kill yourself. Our approach was the complete opposite. Less is more. 30-minute workouts 3 times a week, done. Is one or the other right? No, but there's an objective opinion or a subjective opinion that the right people get behind in either scenario. So that's an example of what the common enemy could look like in that scenario. So this brand new document is something we give to all of our clients as they're starting to really flesh out who they are at their core. And it's not about making stuff up. It's about starting to unearth what's already there, but maybe you're just not aware of it. Here's another example. What's your favorite quote? Okay, so this could go a lot of different directions. For me, it's Gandhi's quote, which is, be the change you wish to see in the world. Another one is Winston Churchill, is success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Now, the quotes are fine, but why are the quotes so impactful for me? Well, in the first one, it's like, I believe in like leading by example. I can't tell people to do stuff that I don't do. It'd be like me trying to sell a hair club for men. It's not going to work. And then obviously for the second one of Winston Churchill, I love that quote because that is essentially the entrepreneurial journey, is just failure after failure after failure. And then, we kept going and we just, ended up winning. So for you, like what's one quote that really jumps out for you? And there's a reason that it resonates with you. And it's understanding the why to help you get clear on who you are, what you stand for, what you're all about. Make sense? Okay. So no matter where you are in business, the brand you process that I'm just kind of breezing through here is a very important piece to start off with, no matter if you've never made your first sale or you're looking to scale to $10 million or beyond. It doesn't matter. What I want to share with you next, and I'm going to get to this sweater in just a moment, but what I want to share with you is our brand guidelines. So we actually just did this big rebrand a couple months ago. And for context, so when I started Healthpreneur in 2017, it was like guerrilla. When I say not the ape guerrilla, but like guerrilla marketing, like really kind of bootstrapping with ugly, whatever. We didn't actually do anything with our website for 5 years. And then I paid a whopping $2,000 to have our website designed. Okay. Now that's about 4 years ago now, I think. We haven't done anything like really thinking about the bigger brand. But our mission here is to help 1 billion people on the planet. So now we're at a point now where we're like really starting to think a lot bigger in terms of, okay, what does the next 10 years look like? What does the brand need to be congruent with that? Because I'm always thinking about, okay, where do we want to be in the future? How do we start being that now so that we start to line up with our future identity? So our brand guidelines, and I'm not saying you need to do this. I'm sharing this from our perspective just to show you like the thinking and the process behind the scenes of what we're currently going through. Hey, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button below. It will help me sleep a lot better at night. But more importantly for you, It'll help you build your dream a lot faster. So go ahead, subscribe, and we'll get back to the show. So we're very clear on our mission and vision, right? Again, our mission is to help 1 billion people live healthier lives. We'll get there by helping or empowering root cause practitioners to build scalable businesses that give them more time, bigger impact, higher profits, allowing them to reach, teach, and influence more people, okay? Again, our ultimate vision is to disrupt a broken sick care system that keeps people sick, disempowered, and dependent, and replace with a model where practitioners have a better way to empower people to take more ownership of their health. So when people come to work with us, or even our clients see this stuff, like we work with root cause practitioners. We don't do med spas necessarily, okay? If you're looking to push pills and injectables, that's not really our jam, right? No offense, but like our best clients are like magicians. They get to the root cause of problems and they help people solve their conditions once and for all. That's what we believe to be the best way forward. Okay, what is our brand's core purpose? I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but I just want to give you an example. Like, this is an important question. So this actually, I don't know if it's in the brand new document, but I'll just mention this here. Why do you need to exist? Like your business, you as a business, why do you need to exist beyond making a profit? So this kind of, for us, again, it comes back to our mission and vision, but let's say you're a weight loss coach. Why do you have to exist? There's a million other weight loss coaches. But you have to think about this, because if you don't clarify why you need to exist, you will stop existing when the going gets tough. And it needs to be more than just making money. Making money is fine up until a point, but there needs to be like a really fundamental reason to what it is you're doing. So this is a really, really important one. Okay, how are you disrupting the status quo? So this kind of comes back to the common enemy you talked about. So for instance, there's a lot of like in our world, like more patients isn't always better. More appointments doesn't mean growth. More hours is not success. Doing everything yourself is not leadership. Time for money is not a scalable model. Like burnout doesn't have to be the price of impact. There's a couple beliefs in our space that we do not agree with, right? So these would be examples of like common enemies that all of our stuff is positioned against, right? Like I don't believe one-on-one patient care is in any way useful for most people. Therapy, one-on-one work, by all means, like if you're doing that, cool. There are way better ways of helping people. I've been on both the receiving end as a patient, and I've helped thousands of practitioners, from chiropractors to therapists to doctors, the whole bit, build leveraged care that allows the patient or the client to take more ownership of their own healing, and the results are absolutely phenomenal, and it saves you as a practitioner way more time if you're open to it, okay? Okay, so core values. I'm going to just mention this real quick. Your core values are really important to, especially as you're growing your business, right? So maybe early on, maybe not so much, but especially when you start hiring people, it's very, very important. I see this as a big mistake in a lot of businesses. They start hiring people without clarity on their core values as at a baseline. Your core values are not aspirational. These are the things that you are. So you have, in our case, we have 3 core values. We used to have 7. And then like no one, including myself, could remember what the 7 core values are. The magic number is 3. So for you, what are the 3 most important things that matter to you most? And one of the ways to identify these is what really pisses you off. When you're working with people, for instance, with me, speed is king is one of them. When people that I work with or operate with in whatever way, shape, or form work slowly, it drives me fucking crazy, because I know how long it takes to do stuff for the most part. And if it takes somebody a week, that can be done in an hour. There's no, like, it goes, I go nuts. Okay, well, at some level, there's obviously, I hold that at high esteem. So when I look at our business, like that is something that our best team members all have in common. And we don't hire people who work slow. Owner-like commitment. When people just punch in, punch out, they're just kind of here to collect the paycheck. They're not working here. They're done, gone, ciao. Owner-like commitment. You either run this as your own business within the business, or we're never working together. Driven to grow. If you're not voracious about learning and growing and getting better, we don't have a seat here for you. These are the 3 core values that I embody in my DNA. How I do anything is how I do everything, right? I'm a voracious learner. I want to keep growing. So naturally, the business, the brand is an extension of my DNA, of your DNA. But you have to clarify what that is, because if you want to attract the right people, you have to be clear about that. We've had people, apparently one of our job postings went viral on TikTok a while ago because it was so clear and polarizing. We said, listen, if you're looking for a 9-to-5 clock in, clock out, ping pong tables and fancy couches, this is not the place for you. And some chick went fucking ballistic about this and said, how dare these guys, they're health experts and like blah, 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 blah. So she like scathes us And then the next day, we get an application coming through for a specific job with our perfect person who we eventually hired. And this is an example of like when you're clear about who you are and what you represent, you're going to bother some people and you're going to attract some people. If you're very conservative, like just share that. If you're very woke and liberal, share that as well, right? Because there's going to be friction on the inside, whether with your clients or team members, if you tried to like tuck that stuff under the rug, right? It's not about trying to appease everyone and like, hitting all the quotas of different colors and different genders. Like if you don't want to play that game, don't play that game. But if you do, cool, right? But it's like, it's your business. You run it how you want to. So anyway, so the brand guidelines is an extensive process that we went through to get clear on, okay, well, like it's, target market avatar. What is the purpose of our, social media? Like this is an abbreviated version that can go on for 100 pages. This is 41 pages. And again, I'm not suggesting you do this. This is the first time we've done this in 8 years. Okay. So we're a multiple figure company. We didn't do this on day one. So that's why I said at the beginning of this video, this is not for beginners. This is not something you have to do early on, but you want to get clear, like who is your perfect client, right? Who are like the avatars? Like for us, they own or co-own a clinic doing more than $500,000 a year. They have at least two team members. They're aged, between 35 and 55, right? Like, is there someone that can come into the world that's 56? Yeah. But if you get clear on who you're after, your messaging will be on point. You will naturally attract those people energetically, but also because your messaging is on point. Okay, so this whole process is something, again, that we spent a good amount of time really thinking through and just kind of talking about as a leadership team. And then obviously we brought this together. Our amazing graphic designer, Beatrice, did this in Canva. Obviously this turns into a PDF. For us, like as an example, like Healthpreneur, like about our pricing. So for us, our brand, it's not about being affordable, right? We're not the Walmart here. So for us, it's about premium, high leverage, high impact, the gold standard solution for practitioners who want more time, freedom, and profit. So if someone is like, hey man, I can get something cheaper somewhere else, I'm like, good, go. Our clients want the 4 seasons of practice growth, not the best deal in town. We're not Motel 6. We're the 4 seasons. That's just the decision we made, okay? So when we look at, okay, well, what is the feeling that we want to start to create with that? We look at premium like 4 seasons, warm like auberge resorts, and driven like Equinox. That's kind of like the trifecta for us. And it also embodies the type of venues that we use for our events, the house that I built in Mexico, which kind of encapsulates this vibe. And it's not overly corporate. It's not stuffy. It's not clinical, right? Even though we do work with clinicians, it's not stethoscope and lab coat. That's not our vibe. Okay. So we know that. And so therefore, when we take that clarity and then we bring it into like our visual aesthetic and our messaging, well, I'm not going to be dressing up in a lab coat and a stethoscope, right? I'm not going to be in a medical clinic because I don't work in one, even though a bunch of our practitioners might still. So anyways, this is just to give you a sense of like what we're doing behind the scenes to really get clear, like, which adjectives best describe. So elite, inspiring, authentic, trusted, transformational, high vibe. Like you can tell I'm wearing a hoodie with the Juventus logo, which I'm going to come to this in a second. So stick with me because it has a lot to do with your brand. I promise you this. Okay. So like when I look at this, I'm like, I'm elite, but authentic. Okay, I played pro soccer. I love soccer. I don't wear suits and ties. Like it's not like corporate and stuffy. Therefore, if we're using imagery in our videos, we're not using imagery of like big skyscrapers with people in suits and ties. Like that's not our vibe. Okay. What is our brand's personality and voice? Direct, confident, upscale, relaxed, expert, but approachable, right? Like I'm an expert. I'm the best in this space. I've been doing this longer than anyone else, but I'm also very approachable. Like I'm not like too cool for school. But I'm very direct and I'll tell you fucking straight up how things are, right? That's just how I am. And if you can't handle that, ciao, don't give a shit, okay? I'm not going to compromise me to serve and bend over for other people. Some other people might, not here. Okay, what do we want to be associated with? Undeniable expertise. You come to work with us, work as a client with us, you're getting the best of the best in terms of coaching and expertise in the health space. That's guaranteed. Upscale, relaxed. The house we built in Mexico is a 20,000 square foot, 6-star house that we use for living. We rent it out. We do events there. It's like you're staying at a 6-star resort. Professional yet approachable. Again, we're very, very good. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We take our clients' results very seriously. Premium, for sure. Trustworthy. This is a big one. Direct, high vibes. We're very like woo-woo, but also very pragmatic. active wellness, community. So these are things that we're not aspiring to be like. This is just who we are. So this kind of comes back to a very similar message as the core values. Is like, I don't aspire to to have active wellness as part of our brand. If you work in our company, you're generally healthy, you're fit, you can go for hikes, right? When we get together as a team, we're doing active stuff. We're hiking mountains, not mountains, but like nice hills, nice walks. We're doing all sorts of stuff that's active. And it's not to say that that's just who we attract, because that's who we are. We're not trying to pigeonhole people and say you're not a good fit here. It's like we just attract people who are into active wellness, right? And community is a big piece of what we do. Like we want people who are part of a community and who believe in the value of being together with other people. Okay, so anyway, so this is our brand's kind of guidelines. This is obviously something we share within the team, blah, blah, blah. And then we get into some of the stuff around like font style, color scheme, etc. And again, I don't want to overdo this, but I also want to show you that for us, this is something that we've not paid attention to. And I do feel that this is something that as the brand grows, this is important, because I think we've all seen commercials where we don't know who the brand is advertising, but we know right away based on the color scheme or the fonts that are used in the commercial. I'm sure you can kind of identify which ones those are. So for us, we're like, well, if we want to play at the highest level and eventually grow this to $1 billion and make the impact we want to make, this is where we're going to go. Let's just start now. Our color schemes right down to the hex, color codes, some of the imagery. And also I'll just finish on this here. Like one of the things that I was thinking about was our previous tagline was be great, do great. And that served us for, however many years. But then I was really thinking about what does our brand really represent? And it's this, is that anything is possible, right? Anything, like I was a dead broke, overworked personal trainer living in a tiny 800 square foot apartment. My dog's pee pad was right beside my desk. It was just a shit show. And I went from that to building one of the nicest properties in the Western Hemisphere on the Pacific Ocean. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm like, if I could do that and help thousands of other practitioners build their dream lives, anything is possible. And that's the bigger sense that we want people to associate with our brand. So when we think of how do we share stories, how do we tell stories of our clients who are making an impact in this world, it's this couple was not able to get pregnant, and then they started working with one of our clients, and then they brought a baby into this world, right? Like stuff like that. This person was dealing with this issue forever, and they couldn't find any solutions, and so they worked with one of our clients who's an amazing magician when it comes to this health issue, and she helped them solve this thing, right? And so it's this idea that anything is possible. And that's the belief that we want to share into the marketplace. But it's also again, going back to the directness, anything is possible, but it doesn't mean that you still have to work for it, right? There's still a process in there. Anyways, so that's took a lot of thinking on my part for some time, which is fine. That's, you get to a point as a CEO where this is some of the stuff you think about. So then what we did is our graphic designer started to take all this and build it out into landing page designs, right? So what's the color scheme? What's the font scheme? Where are we using certain colors? How are we, what's all this stuff. Okay. So again, I'm not going to overemphasize you don't have to do this early on, but at a stage where you're starting to really build a brand, a certain look and feel is going to be very important, right? We want it to be approachable. We want it to be professional. And so we use two main fonts. One is Playfair, the other is Montserrat. And that just kind of disseminates along to the whole team, because then if we have someone building out a web page or a video, they need to be on the same page with respect to the look and feel. Video brand guidelines. So when we're developing out videos, whether it's for ads or social media now, again, all of this stuff translates into these videos. So again, color scheme, font scheme, all the way down to, the subheads, semi-bold, body text, regular, buttons, bold. I mean, it's so granular, but we're trying to leave it to the point where anyone can come in, including two of my oldest kids who are 13 and 14, who are doing some video editing for us, and they can follow this playbook and produce videos of the highest quality because they don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just follow the process, right? Follow the guidelines. So even when we look at, okay, here's how we're going to lay things out in a video, here's the potential layout of the headline, the different look and feel, there's different ways of using these different colors or different formats or different fonts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's some examples of, other videos that we, admire, and so on and so forth. So I share this with you because when I started online in 2005, brand was like, who cared? It's like you put an offer together, you put it up, people buy it. Who cares if your color scheme is like this and you don't even know what you stand for? You're just trying to sell something that helps someone. Cool. But if you want to stand the test of time and you want to be you want to be around for a long time, when you think of the big brands like the Chanel's, the Louis Vuittons, like they're very, very clear on who they are, what they represent, what they stand for, what they stand against, what they are, what they're not, right? Ferrari, as an example, like you cannot, I have a friend who had a Ferrari that he got a cease and desist letter from Ferrari because he had customized the front of the car that was not to Ferrari's spec. It would be like if we gave a video editor these guidelines and they sent us a video back that was in no way, shape, or form along these lines. We'd be like, no, redo it. Ferrari did that with the guy who bought a freaking car, right? Not in Italy, but in Toronto. So this is how you protect the essence, the soul of your brand, the quality, if that's something that's of importance to you. So I'm going to share one last thing with you around brand, and it comes down to this sweater. So I played pro soccer in the first part of my life, and I never liked Juventus. Like, this is Juventus. Italian team, they're the winningest team in Italian history. I didn't really care for them. And then Netflix had a documentary on one of the seasons for the team. So I watched it because I'm interested in soccer, and I'm like, oh, cool. Let's see behind the scenes, get to know the team, see what they're up to, blah, blah, blah. And when I finished watching that documentary, which is probably like whatever it was, a 10-part series, all of a sudden, at some level, I felt connected to the team. A couple months later, my wife and I go to Italy, and part of that trip was we spent half the time in Torino, which Turin. We go to a Juventus game. And then the year after that, we take our kids. We loved Torino. So we went back to Torino and Rome, went to 2 Juventus games. And probably none of this would have happened had I not watched that documentary. So what does this have to do with brand? Well, look at this. I'm sure you've noticed this, that Formula One, Drive to Survive, all of these different sports and individuals, the Kardashians, Sylvester Stallone, Charlie Sheen had a 2-part documentary just before his book came out. These are all brand indoctrination type of assets. I'm not saying you have to put together a documentary, but I'm telling you that if people have more time on brand with you, it could be your YouTube videos, it could be stuff you post on social media, it could be the emails you send out. Time on brand equals trust, equals likability. And that's why a lot of these sports teams and celebrities are putting out these documentaries or these mini-part series because they know that if people can kind of get to know them a little bit better, see behind the scenes, they will start to connect with them more emotionally, and they will have a greater affinity to the brand. So I go from not even liking this team, not even thinking about them, to all of a sudden taking 2 separate trips to Italy, going to 3 Juventus games. Our kids love Juventus now. I'm wearing a friggin' Juventus sweater, and I watch them on a weekly basis. That's the power of brand. That's the power of brand. Now, again, Juventus has been around longer than probably most teams in Italy, more than 100 years at this point, and it didn't happen after a couple of years. So please understand that where Juventus is and where most big brands are didn't happen overnight. And there was a journey, and at some point they said, you know what, we got to sit down and clarify, who are we? What are we all about? What do we want to stand for? What do we want to stand against? What is the brand, the feeling that we want to create? And that's exactly what we've been doing over the past couple of months at Healthpreneur. And hopefully this has been in some way, shape, or form useful for you, just not to be necessarily tactical, but just to give you a bit of a behind the scenes look of what we're doing as we're growing the brand from where we are to toward that $1 billion and $1 billion person impact company. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen in the next 10 years, the next 50, but I know that's the direction in which we're moving. And these are always, I find interesting to see other people's journeys and what they're doing behind the scenes. And hopefully this has been useful for you. If it has, let me know what you liked about this video in the comments below. If you want more of this type of stuff, obviously let me know. And if you're a health expert or entrepreneur who wants to grow a better business, then hit that subscribe button because I've got hundreds of other videos on the channel already. Got lots more coming to help you crush it in business and in life. And finally, if you want to see the $1 million coaching model that we install into all of our clients' businesses to help them build 6, 7, and 8-figure companies while working a little bit less, you can check out that video right here.